Throughout the history of this parish, many pastors have served at this church, but the one who spent most of his years of ministry in Yettem is Archpriest Father Vartan Kasparian.
I'm Father Vartan Kasparian, born and raised in Los Angeles, went to Loyola High School, got my bachelor's degree from USC, did graduate work at LA State, took classes at Loyola, also at UCLA. I have taken classes at San Jose State, at Harvard, Claremont, you name it. Was ordained in 1973, and I was in my early 30s at that time. But I had spent the prior 10 years teaching, both at the high school level and the college level. I was teaching at Santa Monica City College for a while, and then came here. And after about eight or 9 months of being sort of the deacon in charge, I was ordained as a priest. Stayed here until 1990. Accepted an invitation to go back to Los Angeles. I accepted it. Ended up coming back here. Served in Reedley for about 3 years. Then spent the next 10 years teaching again, and then came back into this parish full time in 2003, and have been here since. It was always part of what we were doing. I remember when I turned 13, Sir Paisan says, Igor Kovas, come by me. He says, yes, Jerusalem, and my response was, in Zinj, you know. And he says, Mian Kitzadzia. And at that time, the idea of becoming a priest it wasn't even on the screen, so to speak. The irony is on my mother's side, which all Irish Roman Catholics. I had a cousin who was about 2 or 3 months younger than I am. He started the seminary and he was going to be the priest. And the Armenian side of the family asked me, do you want to go to seminary? Do you want to become a priest? I said, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. No, I don't have time for that. Well, the irony is that Dennis retired from the phone company about 10 years ago after a long career, and here I am. Those kinds of things happen. And then from first grade through high school, I went to the Roman Catholic schools. And my mother saw to it that every Sunday it was the Roman Catholic Mass, then St. James. That was our Sunday, just normally. Started playing the organ at St. James when I was 15, and did that until I was well into my 20s. So I mean, it's always been a part of what we're doing. Vartan Sir Paisan used to, and those cousins in my age group, I'm the only boy. All the rest are girls. We'd go to visit, and he would say, Hovane Segur, come here, sit down. And he would hand me either an English newspaper or an Armenian paper and say, translate. And I said, but there was that influence. There was also the influence of Zarli Vartan, who was the choir leader at St. James from 1942 until when she passed away in 1990. And she was the one who taught me the music and the order of services and so forth. Through her efforts, I learned not only the Badarak, but the wedding service, the funeral service, all the incidental services that we do.
Program today, first with the entrance of our clergy and our honored guests. With everybody, please rise. Escorted by grandson Brian Ananian and Carlos Ananian, escorted by granddaughter Lisa Ananian. Escorted by Mrs. Marquis Erdarian, escorted by grandson Eddie Erdarian.
Քնե գսորվին դժվարությունները զոր գրեցին, նաև գսորվին այդ աստվածահաճո հաղթությունները զոր շահեցան եւ մեծ իշխանքեցուցին։ Այսօր Yettemի Սուրբ Աստվածածին եկեղեցվով 65-րդ տարեթարցին արդիվ ամենքս անխդիր անոնց կբարդին մեր վայելած խաղութին, մեր եկեղեցին եւ մեր մայր եկեղեցվով ուղղափառ եւ շմարի հավատքին։
Father to everybody. There's somebody then that you can go to, that you can talk to, you can, to use the English idiom, you can spill your guts to. And you know that it's going to stay where it is and that he'll do whatever he can to help you. Sometimes people will look at the priest as being, inchkane, you know, that's all there is. But that's just, as it were, the tip of the iceberg. Working with people, talking with people, being there when people need. First thing in the morning, there's prayer. Not long, but there are a couple of minutes. On my way to church, because our house is about 17 miles from here, there's something in the Eastern tradition that's called the Jesus Prayer, and I recite that. When I get here, if there's nobody here, I'll come into the church, just say hi to Mayor, and then get to the office. In the evening, the last thing is a short prayer. So that's, and I try to get as much scripture reading in as possible. At one time, I was able to spend at least an hour every morning. Can't do that anymore, but I'll steal a few minutes here and there, and I still do that. But it's like, okay, Lord, these are the challenges now. Help me, you know. Let me say the right words. Let me do the right thing. Let me do what is in accordance with your will. One of the difficult things is, well, at least when I first came here, was trying to deal with the same message in two different languages. If you'd speak Armenian, you know, shatko khosis. If you didn't speak it, you know, you're forgetting your mother tongue. If you speak too much English at that time, there was that kind of a challenge. Another challenge is being able to reach out to the youth. In our situation, it's a little bit difficult in that for the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years, the demographic has changed in that the young people will go away to college and they generally stay there. Prior to that, they would go away to college, they would come back, they would get involved in the family business, which usually was farming or some form of agriculture. Now they'll go away and they stay. For example, my daughter, born and raised here, went to the University of San Diego, did her graduate work in Boston, and now is living in Los Angeles, working for the Disney Corporation in Glendale and Burbank. But she comes back home once in a while. But there's that challenge. You know that you only have them for up until really the time they go away to college. Some of them do come back, but they're the minority. Reaching out, for example, with the altar servers. You work with them and you train them for 3, 4, 5 years, then they get to the point where they really become competent and they're not there. Then you start on another group. It's continual that way. But one thing about this community that is, I think, different from other communities is that even though they physically move away, they still consider this their home. This is home. We had a number of them. We just did our 100th anniversary last week. And there were a number of them who live at the coast, live in Los Angeles, live in San Diego, came back because this was home. And I'm not sure that any of the other communities have that kind of an attitude toward them. People, and here, maybe if it were in Los Angeles or someplace else, there would be a lot more formality, but it's very informal. For example, when the ladies are working in the hall, as they were a couple of weeks ago, making yalanchi for the anniversary, when it was lunchtime, it's, hey Derhar, come on, lunch is ready, come on, join us. that kind of an attitude. I didn't see that so much when I was in LA. LA, I think, tended to be much more formal. And I mean, the people will think nothing of coming up and throwing their arms around me and giving me a hug, and I give them a hug. And I'm not sure that that would work in other situations, but here it works, and nobody gives it a second thought. It's a warm, in this community, the attitude toward the priest is very, very respectful. When we have any kind of a dinner, even if it's a buffet, the idea that I would get up and get my own food is absolutely a no-no. They don't see those private movements. I don't know if that's good or bad, but they basically don't see it. But they're there. They're very much there. And I've told them many times, believe it or not, when you're sad and you weep, I weep. When you're happy and you rejoice, I'm there with you. And I want you to know that. One of the things, when I look at the Armenian Church and the faith of the church, it's a simple historical fact that this church has been around for about 2,000 years. And I can't think of any other institution that's been around for that long a time. So that says there's an intrinsic worth, an intrinsic value that is there. What I find upsetting sometimes is that some of the people who don't recognize that are our own people. I remember when my mother passed away, there was a sizable number of Irish Roman Catholics present. And Father Musha was there, Tashton, and he sang Iverin. Now these people don't understand the language, they don't understand the melody, they don't understand the services, and yet when the service was over, they said they had never heard a more beautiful song and that they were all moved to tears. And that's part of our heritage, that's part of who we are. And getting people to know that, getting them to appreciate it and accept it, I think is crucial. It's a 24/7 job, it never really ends. It's there, it's ours, it belongs to us. Learn it, appreciate it, live it, that kind of thing.
Ardrums jelek, jevahote